Everyone say hi, David. Okay, so we're back here at Printed Solid. It's been 2 years since we were last here, and the last time we were here was just after the Prusa Printed Solid merger. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so a lot has changed in the meantime. You used to have 2 filament lines, and you didn't build printers. Now you have a lot of filament lines, and you're building Prusas here in the US. And for those that don't know, Prusa actually stands for Printed in the USA, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's totally what it stands for. So who best to give the tour than the CEO of Printed Solid, David? And we're gonna go through and we're gonna show you off all the new cool things that they have here. So let's get started.
Well, the showroom here is still here. We have all the fun stuff. The nice thing is that we now actually have all of the Prusa products in-house, in stock. So we have even the HT90s here. We've got all the enclosures. So we got the minis and the MK4Ss and the XLs. We just have it all throughout the whole space here, which is absolutely wonderful. Lets people come into the shop, hang out with us, see everything we're doing. And then what you do is you keep heading on back here in the whole place. And we've even expanded our shipping department by a large factor. So we have a huge space now. We got all the guys, they just work their butts off all the time, shipping everything out. Just rows and rows of filaments and parts. We try to keep everything Prusa in stock now, which is absolutely wonderful. Very important to us. And keep everything here. Nice big space. And now we'll work our way back. And then we come through here. We get all our fun stuff. We get all of our operations coming through here.
Hello.
We get Dustin, who's in here talking with people rather than actually working, but that's fine.
He's collaborating and building relationships.
That's right. You know, I got my office space now, and as I like to say, I've slowly been moving my office further and further back into place. And I don't.
Is that if everything goes to poop? That's your escape route. Now this is new because there used to be a filament line here.
There used to be a filament line. I'm sitting in a space where there is actually a filament line, but now we have our own little print farm here. So a bunch of MK4s just hanging out, printing out some different random parts. Some of the parts are for the MK4Ss, which we started manufacturing a couple of weeks ago here in the States, which is wonderful. And yeah, we got a really nice space for it, temperature controlled, whole 9 yards, ready to go. Now, we used to have a big warehouse for shipping. That's changed too. Now,
this is all new. Well, most of these are new. Some of these have moved over, but we've got some new machines here. So
that's right. All right, so now we're up to 3 Jessie lines now in this place, and we also have a Prusa line. But we've done a lot of upgrades on our lines. We're adding new blowers, new chillers. We've even added a whole new dosing system. We've added a new dryer system to get our beads even drier. One of my favorite little parts is right here. This is actually mixing in the color automatically for us.
So you're making gold right now, looks like.
That's golden winter that's being made there. And these were kind of fun to put in place and get rolling. And we even had to 3D print out our own little screens and all that stuff just so we can control everything. We've upgraded our dryers. It used to be smaller dryers. Now this looks like a small Apollo capsule ready to take off. But we are now actively doing that, and instead of carrying buckets over to our machines, we can actually get all the beads sucked up through the hoses directly in the machine on demand. This allows us that we never have to worry about having enough dry beads, because this machine dry beads in real time, so that we could run 24/7 if we wanted to on here, which is absolutely wonderful. Just all sorts of stuff. And then we get geeky little things that I just enjoy. Which one of my favorites is that I like to get in a larger air compressor. No one else cares about that type of infrastructure, but I enjoy it. You know, it's just one of those things.
I used to work in a tool shop, so the joy of having continuous air is actually a really nice thing to have.
So we have all of that. Now, here's the real thing, which, you know, we can't show on camera, so you'll have to blur it out. But this is the Prusa line that we got, and this is the sample one that they'll be working on to get all going. And this is where they have all their super expensive components. The humor of it is that this was shipped over with the exact same specifications. So it's 50 hertz machinery running at 400 volts. I had to get all that to convert it over to use American power.
Oh, wow.
Because we didn't want there to be any difference between the machines. We didn't want there to be a slight variation one bit. And that was a challenge. I got to go over to the manufacturer and sit there with them and go through every component just so I know what to do when we got it here. But we track everything. Everything we do here goes through Prusa. Literally all the data from the entire line goes through Prusa, gets processed, and then comes back here. So if we want to print a label, it has to go all the way over to Prague before it gets printed.
So basically anything that comes off the big blurry orange machine just out of camera here to save me editing time is basically one-to-one Prusa. You can't tell the difference.
You can't tell the difference, and it has to be that way.
Yes.
We have been very strict about it. They even tell us which filaments to make. We did not want to have any sort of David spin on it.
Okay.
And that took a lot of self-control. To get it all through.
Excellent. So right now in-house here we have 3 Jesse lines and then the blurred Prusa line.
That's right.
Awesome.
And now we'll head down to manufacturing.
So we're just gonna go take a little jaunt outside here.
Yep. And then we get over here into manufacturing.
So this is wholly new because, as we alluded to earlier, Prusas are now built, assembled in the USA.
That's correct.
So the plan is if you buy a Prusa and you live in the US, you're gonna get a Prusa that's assembled here instead of the Czech Republic.
Exactly. So what we literally do is we got our shipping stations, we got our test farm here. We have all the workbenches for our individual technicians here. We have data screens. The data screens will actually upload all of the information overseas to Prusa so that all of our tracking and everything else is spot on.
And these assembly stations, these are pretty much a one-to-one replica, recreation of exactly what Prusa is using over in the Czech Republic.
That's correct. It has a little bit of my spin on it because, you know, Americans and power and all that other stuff, but they're microscopic. So as an example, this is our MK4S selection that comes in here. So all the little screws, the printed parts, this is everything that's needed just to do an MK4S. Ready to go, ready to run.
So right now, the only printers being assembled here are the MK4S?
That's correct.
Okay.
We are currently going through all the process and the issues of adding on more printers.
Okay.
And that's a whole thing. It took us 2 years to get to one printer, so
yeah.
we should be able to speed it up.
Hopeful end goal is that minis, XLs, all that will be assembled here as well.
The end goal is that every printer, every filament is made here in the States that gets sold in the States.
Okay.
That's our goal. When we'll hit that, we don't know, but I'm not going to be sleeping for a long time. I even like to say I had to order the same chairs they use over there.
Yeah, because these extrusions, you were pointing out, these are like German circular extrusions that you just can't get here kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of those foreign extrusions that's hard to find. And Prusa got it for me and actually shipped them over here to size and ready to go.
And the whole goal is to keep this as one-to-one as what they have over in Prague, is essentially to try and minimize any potential deviation between a Prusa built here and a Prusa built over there.
Exactly, and the other idea is that in the future we'll be able to actually trade techs and assembly people back and forth. They can make sure that training is equal on both sides at all times.
Excellent.
That's very important.
So what kind of throughput are we looking at right now for?
So right now we are, give or take, about 10 to 40 a day, depending on how our staff is working. We'll be averaging, you know, as we start to ramp up, we're going to be about 100 a week on average. But that number can go way higher. We can get up to a couple thousand a week without even flinching here in this facility. We just, we're ramping up and making sure that everything's right first.
That makes sense. You don't want to dive right into the deep end and go full bore before, and make sure everything's good first.
I don't want to release 1,000 printers that all have the same one mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but we're making sure that everything's in line. We have our shipping station, so we even ship out of here. All of the serial numbers are generated from Prague, sent to here. We track everything, which is absolutely wonderful.
And as it is right now, it's just the assembly that's being done here. So the actual testing of components, like the heaters, the electronics, all that, is still taking place over in Prague. So everything is still going through the whole Prusa testing phase. It's just the assembly is taking part here. But you are starting to ramp up printed part production here.
Yeah, we're starting to ramp up printed part production, and that testing phase will also move over here over time. and some of the sub-assemblies that are outsourced will also be have American suppliers added to that. So we are moving towards changing it from assembled to made in America over time. That's pretty much what we've been up to, and that's why I have these dark spots underneath my eyes, is from doing all this stuff and running around between the buildings now.
Yeah, it's really cool to see what's changed over the past couple years. Because the last time I was here, it was pretty much what? You had 2 Jesse lines, you had just started selling Prusas, and you were doing the enclosures, which you still are doing the enclosures, and you still have the annex over there where you have the CNC and the laser. That's kind of stepped aside a little bit, or?
It's still being done. We haven't done any new development in that area, but it's still being done, and it has been pushed down on a priority list.
Makes sense, makes sense.
For now.
So if you want to see that, just go watch the last tour I did here 2 years ago, because that's over there, and it's a little muggy outside, so we're not going to walk across the parking lot. So awesome, David. It was super cool to see everything that's being worked on over here. It's cool to see Prusa production being brought stateside, and it's just always cool to see things growing. So awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Everyone say bye, David.
Bye, David.